17th. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Thank you so much for coming to class. I'm so happy to have you here. I feel like I haven't seen you guys in forever since I last saw you on Thursday, but then I didn't see you guys on Friday. So it's good to see you. I'm glad you're here today. Today's attendance question is, do you prefer sunrise or sunset? And the bell ringer, I want you to type the number in the chat. So it is spelled out for you. I want you to put it as a number. So like I spoke about last week, a lot of people, when it's spelled out like this in a story problem, misinterprets it, and you're reading them kind of wrong. And then you get the problem wrong because you have the wrong number. So our warm-ups are going to be kind of looking at numbers and being able to type them correctly and identify them correctly. So there's 3 numbers in there. Type them in the chat for me. And then after that, we're going to get started on lesson 3.7, which is adding and subtracting positive and negative numbers. So a review. So that'll be kind of nice. Nothing crazy hard today. Sorry for the background noise, guys. I'm teaching from home. We are told to teach from home for the rest of this month and part of next month. So that's why there's a backdrop change. I'm currently in my living room right now. Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of answers for the bell ringer. Good job, guys. The first one is 31, so 3-1. The second one is 13, 1-3. And the last one is 40, 4-0. Good job. So when you guys are solving story problems and you see a number spelled out, make sure you look at it and are able to identify it correctly. Because a lot of the times you guys were getting the math part of it right. You were subtracting when you needed to, adding when you needed to, and so on. But you were just using the wrong number, and so then that's why you got it wrong. So let's move on to lesson 3.7, adding and subtracting positive and negative numbers. Are we going to learn about slopes at some point? Yes, we will learn about slopes, and that won't be until probably after spring break. Okay, so addition and subtraction of positive and negative numbers. It should be a review for you guys, but if not, here's a good little refresher. So here is a number line. So on the left in the red, we have the negative numbers. And then in the right, in the right in the blue, we have the positive numbers. And then in the middle, you'll notice 0 is black and 0 does not have a sign attached to it. It's a neutral number, meaning it's not negative or positive. So a positive number can be written with or without a sign. So you can write 5 as 5, or you can write 5 as plus sign 5 or positive sign 5. If a number doesn't have a sign, we just assume it's positive. But a negative number, you will know it's negative because there is a negative sign in front of it. So if there's not a negative sign, we assume it's positive. On the number line, the further right you move, the larger the number. So we start here at 1, but then if we keep going right, it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. This number line ends at 10, but it goes on all the way to infinity, being the biggest number. And then the further left you go, the smaller the number gets. So we're starting here, and then the further left we move, the smaller the number. So a lot of people get confused, and they think that -10 is bigger than -2, but it's actually the opposite of what you think. -2 is bigger than -10, because the closer to 0 it is, the bigger the number. So whether to change or keep the sign is what you're going to be deciding today on the homework. So if you have a problem with 2 signs next to each other, like right here where we have a positive and a positive, negative and a positive, or a negative and a negative, your first step is going to be to decide if they're the same or different. So if they're the same, that means there's 2 positives or 2 negatives. And if they're different, there's 1 of each. So if you have 2 signs that are the same, it's going to become a positive. And if you have 2 signs that are different, you're going to change the sign to a negative. So for right here, for my first example, I have 4 plus a positive 5. And I'm going to make that, because they're the same, a positive. My second example, I have -4 subtract a positive 6. Right here, I have different signs. I have 1 of each. So I'm going to change the sign to a minus. So my new equation is -4 minus 6. And my last example, I have -7 subtract a -5. And so I have 2 signs of the same. So I'm going to change it to a positive. So my new equation is -7 plus 5. So that is step 1 to solving these problems, is whether to change the sign or keep the sign. And then once you do that, you can just solve. So 4 plus 5 is 9. -4 subtract 6 gives me -10. And -7 plus 5 gives me -2. So for this problem right here, -4 subtract 6, a lot of people yesterday in periods 1 through 3 would get those kind of problems wrong on the assignment because they would subtract. But when you see 2 negative signs, what you're really doing is adding them together and then putting a negative sign. So it's not 4 subtract 6, it's -4 plus a -6. So your answer is -10. So when you're solving these ones, just make sure that if there's 2 negative signs, so a negative in front of the first one and a negative in front of the second one, you're really adding them and then just putting a negative sign in front of it. For today's assignment, you're allowed to use a calculator. And so I just wanted to show you guys a few things. So the Google calculator is nice because it doesn't have if you just put negative and then 4, it keeps it as a -4, and then you can put -6 and you get the right answer. But if you're using, where did I set my phone? If you're using your calculator on your phone, it has this symbol right here. It's kind of hard to see. Right here next to the AC button, the +/- symbol, and that's what you're going to use if you're using your phone calculator to solve. So you'll type in for this equation, -4 subtract 6, you'll type in 4, and then you'll hit the +/ sign and then subtract 6, and you get your answer -10. So that's how you use the +/ sign. If we were in class right now, we would be using like the basic blue calculators that you have seen probably since elementary school that just do like the basic stuff, because that's the only calculator you can use on the work keys test. And so we'd practice using that -/ sign. But since we're not in person and I don't have enough calculators to send home with everyone, we won't practice it for now. But we're still going to do this assignment just so that you guys can have a little practice and an easier day. So here is the assignment in the chat. It's on teachermade.com. It's 10 problems. If you finish that, make sure you are done with assignment 3.6 that was due yesterday, but you can work on it today and still turn it in. So the rest of the period is yours to work on assignment 3.7.